Welcome to the Love Sessions. I'm Nori, and my amazing, sparkly, beautiful co-host is Lily. Hi, Lil.
Hi, amazing, sparkly Nori.
Oh, I got this too. Thank you.
I can't say them as fast as I gotta practice that. I'm gonna practice it. I'm gonna work on
It's
it.
so funny because I look at your little picture, on Skype, and I'm like, oh yeah, sparkly. Yeah, it just comes out.
Yay!
Yay! Oh my goodness, Love Sessions number
25?
25. That's a
Yeah.
good number.
Yeah, I like that number.
Oh, wow. We're racking them up. They're so much fun just having these phone calls and bringing love back to everybody. I mean, that's what this is about. Just to, everybody thinks, well, not everybody. Some people have said to me that they think the love sessions is, advice like Dear Abby for relationships. And it's not. It's bringing love back to you, which is bringing love back to us, which is the core essence of who we are.
Absolutely, absolutely. It is about relationships, but it's about the most important relationship we will ever have, which is the one with ourselves.
Boy, that's the truth. Because
Yeah.
if you don't have a good one with yourself, it's gonna spill over into every single other one.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Mhm.
That's why this project is so near and dear to both our hearts.
Absolutely, that's true. And it's so interesting because I was in the grocery store the other day, and it was really warm. And although I'm a jeans person. I think I will be buried in jeans. But I had my jeans on, and I had some little top on, and um, I'm wheeling my cart, and I see a couple, and the woman is lovely. She's lovely. If we had to compare each other, which I don't do, um, she was heavier than me, but beautiful. I mean, she was beautiful. Her husband was in workout clothes. She was in like business attire. And I thought, I was just like observing how cute they are. And it just looked like what a good relationship they had. And then I saw them again in another part of the store where they were bending down to do something. And they were both bending down. And when I was coming near them, they both, like cricked their head to look up. And it was such an awkward position that it made me take note. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. And I felt them watching me. And then I walked by and I saw them again in the vegetable aisle. And I could see that the woman was upset. And she was like looking at her husband, looking at me, looking at her husband, looking at me. And I couldn't help but remember the times in my life where, I wasn't where I wanted to be with my body. And, and it spilled over, like we were talking about in the beginning, it spilled over into my relationships, and when I would be with my husband or my boyfriend and I would worry whether he was looking or not, I would worry that the vision of another person who was closer to where I wanted to be was going to impact our relationship. So the only word that I really know to use is jealousy.
Ooh.
And jealousy gets such a bad rap, because I think of women. I mean, I'm going to come up with some examples. A woman pushing the window air conditioning in because she thought that her husband was with somebody. I mean, these are friends from mine when I was way younger. And accosting their husband, at work because they thought he was cheating, and so that's kind of what comes up for me when I think of the word jealousy, but this was such a different expression of that word, and I wanted to give her my card, because I mean, I felt so, what would the word be? I felt so empathetic to her because I'd been there so many times, and she was lovely. And, I mean, you can only infer things about people by the way that they look, but she looked beautiful, and she looked capable, and she looked, like she went to a job that she liked. And I just wanted to take that angst away from her for that moment.
Right. Wow. It's and as an empath, I'm sure you felt like what she was feeling, that discomfort and that sort of knocked out of her lane type of thing, because that's what jealousy will do to us. And it is, I mean, the green-eyed monster, you know, like, but jealousy is really, it's a fear.
It is a fear.
And
That's
yeah, it's
go.
it's that fear of losing something.
Yes.
Like in that situation, like she might have been feeling that she could lose her husband because in her mind, she doesn't feel that she's good enough. Where she doesn't really know what her husband, I mean, he might perfectly prefer, you know, someone who's a little curvier.
Absolutely.
But in her mind, she's feeling not good enough. So she's feeling that ugly knot in the pit of her stomach, that thing that causes us to feel jealousy, which is that fear, that threat, that, you know, like insecurity. You're not good enough. You're not good enough. You're not good enough. And it's sad because so many of us deal with that, and it's really hard to find compassion for that, because when someone is labeled as being jealous, it's like, oh, you know, like you're the bad one. You're the green-eyed monster, you know, like you're the bad person because you're feeling jealous, where actually that person is in pain.
Exactly. That's so true. And that sinking feeling, you know, that you get. And, you know, if you are at that point in life where sometimes we are all, you know, where we get whipped around by those feelings, you can't correct it right away. No. You know, you end up carrying it into dinner, and then you carry it into the night. And, you know, some people who are expressive, and I'm, you know, calling upon my own experience, you know, where I would make my husband or my boyfriend wrong, you know, for the way that I was feeling, you know, that goes in all the wrong places. And I think it's so empowering when we finally realize that, you know, take the stigma off of all of the things that we get labeled with. You know, if we have that feeling that the green-eyed monster, and, you know, and, oh, she's jealous, and, you know, I can't even think of the other stereotypes that go along with that. But if we can, like, take those labels out of it and go, okay, what is this really? This is me being poignantly aware, electrically aware, because when you're in the grocery store and you see that person that represents something of closer, something closer to where you want to be in yourself, it's like you go, zzz, it's like electricity. Zzz, then you get that sinking feeling, and you know, you go down that rabbit hole. But if you can recognize that you're not at fear of losing your husband, you're not at fear of losing, you're not in risk of losing your relationship, then you can do something about it more quickly. You know, and when I realized that it's not about the other person, it's not about my husband, it's about me wanting to be in a different position with myself, with the relationship with myself, and I'm out of alignment with it in that moment.
Right.
And if we can bring it back to that, we can begin to correct it. We can begin to shift it. We can begin to grow that relationship with ourselves so that it doesn't spill over into the other relationships.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love what you said about making the other person wrong when it's actually us who are feeling wrong in that moment.
Absolutely.
So it's like, you know, pushing that out to the other person. And that's a form of protecting ourselves of defensiveness when we're actually the ones that are feeling wrong for whatever reason. And it could be, you know, it could come up for so many things, not even just, you know, a romantic relationship. There's jealousy among siblings. There's jealousy at work. You could be jealous of your neighbor's, you know, house or their car or whatever. But it all comes back to feeling like there's something wrong with me. Why don't I have that? Why don't I have that thing? Or am I going to lose that? You know, am I going to lose this thing because that person is better than me? And it's that fear and that punishing yourself and judging yourself. And it has nothing to do with the other person or the other thing or any of that. It's just how we feel inside, and it's really painful.
It is so painful. Oh my goodness. And and law of attraction, if you go into that kind of ignited emotion, you're just going to create more of that. And oh my
Exactly.
goodness.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. To me, I look at that feeling, like that zzz, like you said, as a huge neon letters, flashing, blinking fireworks, enormous invitation to love ourselves.
Absolutely. And I love that. I mean, first of all, the visual was just amazing. And what really came from that, Lil, was that feeling is not necessarily bad unless we make it bad.
Yes.
Right? Because
Yes.
for years, that was I had conditioned myself into understanding that feeling was really bad. So not only did I have the fear that I was going to lose something, the fear that I'm not good enough, and the fear that I'm not where I want to be, and the fear that that's going to impact my whole life, but then there was the wrongness of that feeling that
Right.
just layered more pain on it. And now when I feel that feeling, I still feel it. I still feel those feelings when I'm out of alignment with something that I really want. That feeling happens for me when I am not in a place of generosity with somebody, and I can't shift to appreciate their jokes. That feeling happens for me then because, I always want to be in a state of generosity. I always want to be in a state of, allowing and appreciating. And when that happens, like somebody makes a bad joke and I can't even like chuckle over it, I get that feeling. And now that feeling, like you said, Lil, is just a reminder. Hey, you prefer to be generous and accepting and light, and you like that. But right now, you're kind of kinked up in your energy, so that's not happening for you.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's so good if we can just come to that point of understanding with the things that make the zzz, more physical. It feels like a whole body experience, until you begin to, desensitize yourself to it. It feels like a whole body experience. It feels like you're dying. It feels like the world's going to be taken out from under your feet for a moment. And so,
Yeah,
we can,
because emotional pain is physical. It
yeah.
will express itself physically. So even though it's an emotion, you're going to feel it physically. You're going to feel it. You might like start to like get clammy or sweaty or start to shake or not be able to breathe or even get nauseous or a headache. Whatever. But yeah, it absolutely is not going to feel good. So you're absolutely correct there. I was thinking, and I had looked this up, and I just remembered talking about like that feeling. I know you were talking about like shame, how that feeling. That's really what you were describing, is that feeling of shame. Like on top of the fact that I feel bad about this thing, now I feel bad that I feel bad about this thing. So I'm adding, layers to it because that's what society teaches us. Like, oh, if you're feeling jealous, then you're a bad person. That's a bad emotion, and no emotions are bad. We know that. No emotion is bad. Emotions are emotions, and you're not your emotion. You're not bad because you feel an emotion that's been labeled as bad. And that was a tongue twister, but but it's just acknowledging like, oh, wow, I'm feeling that, and I don't like the way that feels at all. That's not something that I like. So what I wanted to point out is something that surprised me, but they've done studies on jealousy and the reaction of feeling uncomfortable with somebody else having something that you want or feeling like you're going to lose something. They've done studies on babies that are just a few months old.
Wow.
Showing signs of jealousy.
Wow.
Like if, even babies that are not in any distress at the moment, they're not crying, they're not looking for attention, they're perfectly fine laying in their little crib, cooing, playing with their toes, and they see their mother pick up, their sibling or something else, and all of a sudden, like their face will tighten up and they'll start to show signs of distress. So, hello folks, jealousy is not this horrible thing that you have to be ashamed of.
Right.
It's a natural human emotion that we all have, that we're all born with. It's not in this horrible wound or this horrible dark thing inside of you. It's just a feeling that you get, and it's okay to feel it.
Right.
It's okay to feel it and to work through it. It's
Right.
not, I love that whole thing how you talked about that. Don't feel shame about feeling jealous or envy, because that's just compounding the problem. Give yourself some compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Give yourself some room to breathe in that moment, and accept that invitation to love yourself, not to fix yourself.
Right.
Right?
And breathing would be a really good thing to do when you feel that zzz.
Exactly.
Lily, I even see it, I'm dog sitting right now, so I've got 4 dogs, and I see it, when I give attention to one of them. Pixie's like turning her head sideways and, turning her feet up in the air, like trying to look so cute to get me to look at her instead of the dog that I'm working with at the moment. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it transcends all species,
It absolutely does. And it's important. And I love that we're talking about this, because maybe the listeners have not realized this, have not heard this before, have not realized it's okay to feel a little crappy when you feel like you might lose something, or like somebody else has something that you want, or it's okay to feel that way, and just love yourself out of that feeling.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with you with feeling a little jealousy, a little envy, that little twinge of, why him and not me? There's nothing wrong with that. Just work past that.
Right. And what my question is, so what are you going to do with it? So, you're going to take it as an inspiration, or, I mean, I can't remember all of the things that I had to work through to get to this place. But now I can move myself, I recognize that, oh yeah, there that is. And then I'll look at the person and I will just appreciate that person, but this has taken years for me to move into that space where I can go, oh, I'm jelly, and really feel good about it and feel okay about it.
Yeah. Well, the first thing is being aware of it.
Yeah.
And being given permission to feel it, which is, I think, what we're trying to do here.
Exactly.
We're trying to love everybody that way. Like, it's okay, baby. It's okay to feel that way. And then, find what starts to feel better for you. And it might not be the same thing for everyone, but it's important to just start, like we said, breathe, and just like, okay, this feels really crappy. What can I do right now to feel better?
Exactly.
In a loving way to myself. Because, there's been all those things where people act out of jealousy, and it's that, ugly things can happen. That's not where we want to go, because that's actually not allowing yourself to feel the feeling. That's trying to protect yourself from the feeling. Push it away. So I'm going to act out. I'm going to go scratch somebody's car. I'm going to get into a fight or something. That's not feeling the feeling. Let yourself feel the feeling. To me, now it's almost, and I'm very visual, so it's like everything is a scenario that I paint. When I notice that I'm feeling bad about something, that something feels uncomfortable, I put myself like at the top of a mountain, and I imagine that feeling is like this dark cloud, almost like a dark blanket or something that just passes right through me, like those images of ghosts passing through people in movies. And I let it pass through me and feel bad. Like, oh man, that hurts. That really sucks. I hate that. I can't wait for that to pass. And just kind of let it go past me.
I love that.
And breathe myself back to feeling better. And it takes a few minutes. Sometimes I have to do it a few times.
Right.
And sometimes there's tears involved and things, but it's just, okay, let it pass, because I don't like that feeling. So I'm not going to fight it. I'm not going to resist it. I'm not going to give it more energy than it needs to have. I'm not going to hate it. I'm just going to allow it to just go right past me.
That feels better.
Yeah.
I totally felt that.
Yeah, because in anything, it's like if something really painful happens to you, if a tragedy hits you, a real loss or something, Are you a bad person for feeling bad? No. So why would anybody label anybody a bad person for feeling insecure, for feeling jealous, or for feeling envious? No. Acting out on it, that's different.
Right.
But just the feeling, it's not bad.
Right. And if we look, like you were saying, if we look at whatever expression of our, envy it is, the expression of it is what compounds it. Mm-hmm. So whether you carry it forward into your relationship, or whether you do oh yeah, she's really pretty, if she does her makeup, or she's really pretty when she makes herself look, like that's not the sad, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me. That's a different expression of it. But if you go underneath to the core essence of it, it makes you feel equally as bad. Mm-hmm. So whether it's that approach, or whether it's the judgment approach, or whether it's the, I'm not good enough approach, I agree with you. Allow that feeling just to wash through you and get to the other side. And then, then you're at a stronger place of power within yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Because all those other things are really just defense mechanisms for you trying to actually not feel your pain.
Exactly.
Which are never going to work, because then it's always going to come back. It's always going to come back.
That's right. That's right. And, when it's a big zzz, that pain can be a little scary, but if we just, like you said, take a moment and breathe and really just look at the pain, just go into the pain, because it's the running from it that feels worse. It's the running from it that complicates our lives, and if we just go into it like, okay, like with EFT, okay, I am feeling this feeling of jealousy, and because I'm feeling this feeling of jealousy, my adrenaline is pumping, and I've felt this feeling of jealousy before, and I've gotten through it, and I've gotten through this feeling of jealousy, and I've gotten to the other side to realize that I'm not a really bad person, and then I've gotten to that point on the other side, not being a bad person, where I realize this is a natural reaction. So if we can just like work backwards, to that point of where we're okay with ourselves again, it's so empowering.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's all about how we feel about ourselves. It's all about taking care of ourselves and being loving and accepting of ourselves. And it really starts with just like, it's okay to feel this way. And I love that you brought this whole topic up, because it's such an ugly word, and yet look around, it's everywhere. It's like you described, animals feel that. I had the same thing when we brought another little dog into our household, and my adorable little dog would come and pee on my feet.
Exactly.
Oh
yeah, I'm here. That's for you.
Exactly. And as moms, you're out there. If you have kids, and your child will ignore you until you get on the phone, or so someone shows up at the door to have a conversation, and all of a sudden, guess what? All of those little things are expressions of jealousy, which is not an ugly word. It's just that fear. It's just that thing like, oh, somebody's going to take my thing, or I'm going to lose that thing, or somehow I'm feeling like I'm not good enough. And be okay with it.
Right.
Be compassionate to yourself.
Right. Like, okay, and if we could even spin it, into a more positive direction, like, okay, I'm seeing something that I like, I'm seeing something that I wish I had, and I may not have it right now, but I'm okay right now. If we can just spin it just a quarter of an inch in the other direction, it's going to change the whole dynamic and the way that it works out for us.
Yeah. Yeah. And as we were saying in the beginning, as you said in the beginning when we were talking about the love sessions and loving yourself and then spilling it out, now when you find yourself like, if you're the woman in the store that sees another woman giving you an eye, and you know that she's looking at you feeling what she's feeling uncomfortable, you can feel compassionate to her. Towards her. And you might not be able to go up to her and give her your card, or be able to, go up and say, oh, it's okay that you're looking at, my purse and you want my purse, or that you're looking at my, my shoes or something. Exactly. but just feel that compassion towards them. And just even send out a silent wish to the universe, like, ooh, I hope that feeling passes through her quickly. You know?
Absolutely. I know I flowed so much love to that person,
Oh,
that
I'm sure
beautiful
you did.
woman.
I
I
know. I
did.
know. I know you. I know. I
Aw.
know.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm jealous of your purses and I covet them. So I think I'm going to go purse shopping.
My purse collection is envious worthy. No.
It is enviable. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Aw,
that's
thanks,
funny.
Lil.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Thanks,
Talk to you
everybody. We'll
soon.
see you next week.
Bye bye.
Bye.